This is How to AI UXR, an 8-part series that explores how AI is being used across the research workflow, and even how it's exploding it. In each episode, I'll talk with someone who's volunteered to show a thing, so screens on. If you haven't seen it yet, the series pairs with the How to AI UXR map, a 5-page map that will help you pinpoint your AI maturity level and offers practical, real-world applications you can adapt for your research systems. Find the link in the show notes. I'm Kate Towsey, and this series is brought to you by Strella, the AI-powered customer research platform. In this episode, I'm joined by Pham, senior researcher at DoorDash. Nam's going to share the incredible library of skills they've built to support an end-to-end research workflow, from scoping a question to drafting a plan to generating discussion guides and surveys, and so much more. We also talk about harnesses, hooks, and other novel AI terms. What do they all mean? If you've been wondering what scaled-up AI-augmented research looks like in practice, and what it takes to make it stable and shareable across a large organization, not just on your local, this episode will give you a concrete example. Nam, it's so good to meet you again. We had a chat last week, of course. I was so inspired when I was creating the How to AI UXR map and doing all of the research behind it by the articles that you and others have written for DoorDash about the incredible work that you've done with AI. And what struck me most about those articles, they will be linked to in the show notes, was how advanced the work is that you're doing there. For many people, they're starting to understand AI from the point of view of an LLM that you can co-work with. And a lot of people now, of course, in the last year have become a bit more advanced than that. But it feels like you're working at a whole new level. Can you share what it is you're going to share with us today?
Hi, Kate. Thanks for inviting me. We have been experimenting with how to work with LLM in the context of research and design at DoorDash. And I think we start experimenting early on, and we start to find some true utility when we start creating skills that can be used both in cursor as well as code to facilitate some of that research process. So we have been building many different skills, but one set of the skills that we have found useful, not just for research team, but also the wider design and product manager organization is end-to-end like research process. So it starts from, we call it scope research, but essentially it's scoping what we know and then creating a research plan with a research question with a methodology. Then you have designs. The next set of skills is to design the instrument, which including both interview with discussion guides as well as survey. Within that skills, we also built in some, query capability to pull a consumer database, simple lists, things like that, to help us with the filtering process. And then lastly is once we have all of the data, we have analyze skills that analyze both qualitative interviews as well as producing crosstabs for surveys. A few folks in my team actually also have started with creating a new skill called share research, but essentially like packaging all of these memo, survey results, things like that, and share it on Slack, share it on Google Drive, create a Figma board for brainstorming, things like that. So it has been very fun to kind of going through this process and designing this very holistic pack of skills for your research. And for this set of skills, it's designed for researcher. So there is some hidden kind of capability that researcher can call. There's like MaxDiff analysis and things like that that's actually hidden inside. But overall, when we designed the skill, it was also for designers, for product managers that are not the most accustomed to doing research. That's what we're going to show.
There's so many new words and terms in the world right now. And I certainly found when I was doing this work that I would be going, what is an IDE? What is a harness? We will talk about that later. Do I actually understand what an agent is or an agentic system or a skill? Would you call what you've just described an agentic system?
Um, it's only one part of a agentic system. An agent is a model, which is a ChatGPT 5.5, Opus 4.6 plus harness, which is a set of instruction, context, knowledge that wrap around that model, connecting that model with the outside world. And the outside world could enlarge, could be any like scales, right? It could be within the research team at DoorDash. It could be within DoorDash. It could be within like the whole world. And so uh, the harness give the agents the right context, the right best practice, the right guardrail in order to run and produce knowledge and actions that is useful in a particular text. Yeah.
Can you show us what you've built? And then perhaps after that, we can talk about the backstory.
For sure. Yeah. Okay. So this set of skills can be used both in Cursor as well as Cloud Code. But first, I think I want to show you what, I guess, explaining a little bit what a skills is. So a skill is a framework, a model that I think maybe came out, I believe, late last year or early this year. And but in essence, it's sort of a recipe to how to do things. So this one is an example of a skill that just an interview skill that we built. I abstracted to like ops to just kind of anonymize some of the knowledge in DoorDash context.
Right.
But essentially, it's a recipe on how to do things. In particularly here, how to say, for example, write a discussion guide in say DoorDash context, and adhering to DoorDash research team best practice. So typically skills is written in a markdown format, which I think a lot of people in my team early on was asking, like, what is the difference between a markdown and a text file?
Yeah.
Why do we need to use a markdown? So markdown is a hierarchical structure text file. You can see some of this symbol here, but essentially it's telling the LLM that the hierarchy of the text content. So, for example, interview discussion guide, it would be like the main heading, and then it would be like the subheading, and like going further down the line, it's like further than that. So, the more structure the document is, the easier for the LM to process and like jump between and navigating the document versus a text file, which is like it's sort of it doesn't have a hierarchy for it, and so the LM will have to just scan through the whole file, and don't know what is more important than the other, things like that. So in a skill, we have a name of the skills. We have a description of what it does. So this one gives the LLM some context. For example, in this case, it's about writing a discussion guide, set up on a research platform, program a screener, pull a contact list. It also including heuristic as sort of like phrases that would trigger it. You could also call in the skill to like a slash. In this case, slash interview would call the skills in, but sometimes you can actually just, sometimes you forgot, and then it will trigger if maybe you say something like, write me an interview guide, or like, write me a discussion guide, things like that.
And then the skill will automatically be evoked.
That's right.
Amazing.
That's right.
And is someone, when they're evoking the skill, this feels like very Lord of the Rings, but are they in Slack or are they in a chat interface? Where are they when they're evoking these interviews?
You would have to use either Cursor, which I'm opening right now, or within like Cloud or Cloud Code. And basically it's just a platform that we use, like an app that you download to your desktop, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that does.
And then so let's go down the skill list a little bit. So the reason why I'm saying it's a recipe, actually, let me hit a preview here so it looks a little bit easier to read. But you can see there's step-by-step guide of what it needs to be done. So for example, like step 0 here is let's ask the agents to scan the current project folder, exists artifact, and then see some of like what has been produced in this case, and then write the discussion guide. You can see also that we have some reference file as well, which I will show a little bit later. Also a little bit of like what is the sections typically looks like, how to construct a questions, things like that. We also like to allow it to, if you connect cursor or call code to Google Docs, Google Drive, you can also ask the LLM to upload that to Google Drive as well to like share with other people. And then we also have some steps around recommending a platform, like what are some of the platform available to us. Then write a program the screener survey, pull contact lists, etc. So this is already abstract out. The actual skill file is much, much longer, but this is like generally you can see that this is the step-by-step guide. One thing that we realized very early on as well is this is not enough, because if you know that the LLM is highly non-deterministic in nature, so we had to provide like a lot of references as well as a little bit more deterministic scripts. So basically like coding references that the LLM can use. So for example, in the references here, we have like a interview guide reference, essentially like best practice on what to, like when you write a discussion guide. For example, we have some like warm up question banks so that the agents can like go in here and like reference and pull out the right like warm up questions. What are the probing patterns as well? So like maybe there's different situations around like if it's a vague answer, say what, and it's an interesting mention, say what, things like that. So this is one way that we build like a knowledge bank again, like for the agents to reference like what's the best practice as well. And then scripts is sort of Python script. In this case, I mean, at least I use a lot of Python, so I do that. So for example, in this skill, we allow people to program like a screener on Qualtrics. So we actually have like a Python script here referencing, there's certain best practice in programming their survey on Qualtrics. And this is sort of like more deterministic way, forcing the agent to just use the code that we already have to produce the thing that we want. So that's basically anatomy of a skill. There are a lot more things that happen that a skill need in order to like function, but we can leave that to later as well.
Yeah. So one thing I look at here, and I'm sure many listeners are thinking is, wow, I thought I had a skill. My skill has got one set of instructions that it generated for itself after I chatted with it, and that's my skill. What I'm seeing here is infinitely more complex than many people's idea of a skill. What is do you have advice around, do you get such thing as a bad skill and a good skill? And what makes a good skill good?
So producing this skill has been honestly a village effort. I started this package skill on my own, sort of just going through my own workflow and sort of writing out skills and just constructed to my workflow. But I think once we start to share with different team members, then we start to have to evolve the skills a little bit more. Part of it is like, for example, I don't have the best practice. Like I'm not the most knowledgeable in my team with regard to quantitative research or like survey programming, for example. So I partner like James Kelly on my teams. He's a quant expert and then has to like really just train the agents on how to produce the right crosstab, for example. And so that just take a lot of iterative, like use a skill, producing an output, and then point out to the agent that, no, you do this, this, and this wrong. I want it to do it that way. Feed it back to the agents and ask it to like innovate the skill a little bit more to make sure that it follow the instructions that it can. That's what we want it to do. So it takes a lot of effort to refine the skills. There's definitely best skill, and even like some of the skills that we have right now, it still doesn't work the best. For example, like methodology recommendation. Actually, it's really tricky to train, because sometimes people want things fast, people want things more comprehensive. So some of the trade-offs, things like that, you do have to just chat back and forth with the agents to design like what is the best methodology. Or sometimes when we're programming Qualtrics, it still got like annoying problems and pain points and things like that. So it's not like it's not one size fit all, and also not like a straight shot kind of like I asked it this, and we got to produce like a Y thing, and then automatically like instantly workable. So yeah, it's like a lot of effort to produce these skills.
And how many skills do you have in total?
Oh, we have we have within research. I don't even know. I think we have so many. We actually just the delivery team just joined DoorDash, so they also bring like a set of skills to us as well. I would say we have anywhere. I think on my cursor right now, I have like 75 skills or
Wow.
something like that. I did like a count today, but that's actually coming a lot from like the wider team as well. Everybody at DoorDash is doing that, so we have like a set of skills from design, like how to develop and prototype things in like design systems at DoorDash. I also had just have a training today with analytics team to like they finally built like an official set of skills as well. I also really like how DoorDash think infrastructure first, like think process first. And so early on, we already have like a platform to like share the skills and let people contribute and innovate on the skills. Things like that make our life much easier.
You were in the midst of showing us something. Did you want to dive back in again?
Sure. Yeah. So let's test it out. So I will show you. I create like a sort of demo folder for this project. So let's start with the first skills that we have, which is scope research. So this is how you call it. You just slash then scope research. It looks a little bit like this. Call it out. I prepare a prompt. I have to just select a prompt that's we don't really have a lot of research existing, so it doesn't call like the connectors we do. But maybe so let's say I want to research the coffee shop's delivery experience. Let's say specifically why customers who try coffee delivery go back to picking up in person. I just want to pick something very niche that there's no data existing.
Yeah.
In person. Can you help me scope and produce a research plan for me?
Very good demo typing. I always find my typing falls to pieces when I'm doing a demo.
So yeah, you can see some. I could also have like a skills to journal processes as well, but it got to do with memory management, which is a big problem for LLM agents in general, which is they tend to just forget things.
Right. Yeah, they do. They seem to
Yeah.
know something one day, and the next day they've forgotten it.
Yeah, so that's like one thing that we do, which it's actually called a hooks, but
A hook.
yeah. A hook is a part of a harness. That a hook is what exactly what it's called. Essentially, if you have a certain task you want to initiate without you having to code it in, you create a hook. So, for example, this hook here is being triggers. The instruction is trigger a journaling when a session starts.
Right. Okay.
So then it creates something like that. So it looks like, so here's what the scope research did. So it's looking into existing research that we had known at DoorDash. I kind of unplugged some of you can see no research repository or dovetail search was run because we unplugged the MCP, but in real life,
Yeah.
you look through our extract context system and the knowledge system that we have, and then produce what we know and what is still open. So it recommend the specific decision moment where customers just pick up over your order. So let's do that. Oh, let's focus on these questions, and let's also edit something fun. Let's add the second one too. I'm actually curious about this. We haven't done. I personally haven't done research about coffee delivery. So it will help us write like research questions like this. So for example, we say what are the key moments in the coffee delivery journey a customer decide whether to reorder or switch back to pickup. What expectation the customer bring to coffee delivery that differ from food delivery, and why does it fall short? So you will chat back and forth and like see like this is the questions I want. This is not the right questions. If it doesn't have enough context, paste in the context as well to refine it. This is where like a lot of the MCP, which is connectors, essentially MCP, you think of it like a plug, right?
Right.
Out of the box, the LLM doesn't have like context of what DoorDash already know about customer, about our own user. So when you plug it in, either plug it into like a research repository, plug it into like we have Glean, which is like the sort of company-wide knowledge base. It will be able to search as well as acquire those contexts. So, and that's a very important part of like of the harness. Looks good. Let's create a research plan. Sorry, I'm rushing it. So but typically you would like want to think through and discuss with it.
Yeah, this is demo time with fake data and spit up research.
With cursor and call code, sometimes you want to switch to this plan mode as well. This is what I tell people a lot at the time when like plan mode kind of like allow the agent to just like take a step back and like think through all the steps it's gonna take first before like doing certain steps. But for this particular format, I'm just gonna do it very quickly. So for example, next it recommend a methodology. So it's recommend a qualitative interview as well as a survey. It say your question exploratory that needs qualitative depth first.
Right.
Not bad. I mean, then a survey.
I mean, for something very, very quick, that's pretty good.
Yeah. So this is something I was telling you about, which is like sometimes the methodology recommendation is kind of off, but you know, we'll still have to train it a little bit more.
For this one, it feels like it's just sent a list of just about everything you could do.
Yeah, I think it's like over-indexed on being comprehensive.
Right, yeah.
So you also recommend a few things. I think it says Zooms are recruited to probe, things like that. Say, I'm good with mixed methods approach that you recommended. And let's go with self-recruited approach. So you can see it's not generating a markdown file as well. And I actually like to like look at what is generating, because then I can kind of catch things as it's generating that it's like what is like something is wrong, or like it is fabricating context or knowledge or things like that, that it shouldn't be there.
I don't know if you've ever used agents in Notion, but what's so funny about you'll ask a question and then you can see the thinking of the agent being kind of typed up in gray. Yeah. And it will say, Kate has asked for this, and now I'm thinking, does she mean this or does she mean that? And you can see the decision making. And to your point, it's really interesting because I will see where it's actually thought something very interesting and then discarded it. And I can say, hang on a second, there was something in there that I think was worthwhile.
Yeah, it's quite human sometimes, the way it's kind of thinking back and forth.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting. Okay, so here's the output. So it's produced a markdown file for the research plan. Let me scroll out for you here. This is the format that we do. I fabricated a name. That's not my name. So this is a typical format of research plan that we like to produce at DoorDash. So there's some context, what we know, research questions, methodology, target audience, incentive. Sorry, please roll out just incentive. This is follow our incentive guidance at DoorDash. And then also timeline, things like that. So you would I typically work from here, like maybe share with my cross-functional partner, asking cursor or call code to post on a Slack channel, asking for feedback, things like that before we go further. Let's go back to the agent chat. So you can see it's recommending, it wrote the research plan here, but also recommending where to go next. For example, here, option A is to continue in cursor and run the other two skill, which I mentioned earlier on, with the survey and interview to design the instrument and then analyze research when data is collected. Or this is actually something that would build our own research platform that Elsa Ho is actually produced, and she's also in that article as well. Great researcher builder. Please look at her writing; it's amazing. But this is where early on when we designed the skill, the concept of chaining the skills was very important for us, because we wanted to be actually like a guided experience, especially for people who did not know what to do when it comes to research. So we would recommend what is the next step, until they have the results. So, a bit of a service design knowledge actually help when designing these kind of skills.
I love that you say that, because systems design, service design, strategy, these are words that have come up in every single conversation that I've had. That though we have this high technology that feels so automated and so independent, we need to step back and hold on to these like long-lived skills that we have as researchers and as research professionals.
Oh my God. Yeah. I think it's like it's so complicated, and it's getting more and more complicated with new things coming out just every week. And so I think like making things understandable, creating things that has like a guided element to it. I think game changer. I think people sometimes giving kind of think LLM out of the box is great, but actually it's not. Like you do need to give it a lot more instruction and context and knowledge and harnesses and things like that to make it work well. Yeah.
This limited series is brought to you by Strela, the AI-powered customer research platform. We're taking a short pause to hear from Strela's co-founder, Priya Krishnan, and her perspective on this conversation.
Hi, I'm Priya Krishnan, one of the founders of Strela, and we are an end-to-end AI customer research platform. We use AI to help you come up with the right questions to ask, then run voice-based AI-moderated interviews and synthesize the results instantly. You can think of us as this trusted research partner that takes you from question to insight, developing, running, and analyzing real customer interviews in just a few days rather than weeks. One of the details from Nam's setup that I can't stop thinking about is one of the least flashy ones. Inside their research skills, they embed actual Python scripts, deterministic code, and reference files with best practice probing patterns and question banks. And they're explicit about why. The LLM is, in their own words, highly non-deterministic. So where precision actually matters, programming a survey or producing a crosstab, they don't ask the model to be smarter. They take its freedom away and force it down a known good path. I actually think that inverts how most people approach building with AI. The instinct is generally to trust the model more. Better prompt, bigger model, let it figure it out. However, Nam's instinct is the opposite. Figure out exactly where the model should not be improvising and hard code that part. And that's the same thing that we have built into Strela. We know how important it is for researchers to still be in control, even if they aren't in the room for the conversation. So we gave them that option. We built in the ability to have Strela ask questions verbatim with no elaboration, no dynamic follow-up questions, because although sometimes we do want AI to have the freedom to ask a dynamic question, in many scenarios, we actually really need AI to stay on script. So the principle here is the same, even though the mechanism is different. Nam proved that reliable AI research comes from being deliberate about where you constrain the model. And for a survey, that's deterministic code. For a live interview, that's the discipline we built into the moderation itself.
Thanks, Priya. Find out more about Strela at strela.io. Back to the episode. What else did you want to show us here before we drop it? Would love to ask you some sort of more philosophical questions about this.
Yeah, I would love to show, do it quickly. Let's show us how it programmed the survey. Let's see how long it would take. And sometimes it might take a little bit.
Maybe while it takes some time, I can ask you some questions.
Yes.
About building a system like this.
So, because this is one of the skills that actually has been really useful for a lot of researchers as well as non-researcher who are not familiar with Qualtrics, which actually it can program the survey directly into Qualtrics for us.
Wow.
It saves so much copy and paste time. It just helps us a lot.
And I guess that also people don't need to learn how to use Qualtrics.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We had something called office hour at DoorDash, and a lot of the time, like we do have like 101 articles on how to program on Qualtrics, but a lot of the time during the office hour, we just need to fix people Qualtrics programming. I'm like, oh, okay, this might be useful for us.
So something that I've heard from a lot of people who are builders and experimenters and innovators and have dived in is that they've been able to build something really neat that they're hosting on their own local system that they can use. But they've not managed to achieve what you've managed to achieve, which is rolling these out a production grade, if you're comfortable with that kind of phrasing around it, to other teams across the company. 2 questions. how many people are using this across DoorDash? And secondly, how did you achieve that?
This set of skills, we actually just did some analytics deep dive. I can't tell you the exact numbers, but it's one of the most widely used skills at within the design and research team at DoorDash by just number of calls.
Right.
And so the way that we did it, one is I think we tap into existing infrastructure. So for example, last year around November, actually, before I continue with that answer, it actually write out the survey here. You can see end-to-end survey. This is actually training on best practice on how we write survey at DoorDash, how we like to screen out folks, things like that. And then let me just actually tell it to program it on Qualtrics. Yes, go ahead and program it on Qualtrics. Okay. And then while doing that, let me go back to the questions.
Yeah.
Tapping into existing infrastructure, especially from engineering side, has been very helpful for us. Late last year, we started to onboard everybody on research and design into GitHub, which served as a source of truth, but also allowing us to build things on top of each other. Say you have a skills, you have a document. If you want other people to work together on that, you can just get into GitHub and kind of work on it together. In the design team, the new design leader actually was really smart in creating a sort of a skill marketplace, if that's the right word to say. But essentially it's just an app that install on our laptop. And then within that app, you can install different skills that people have created. It also ultimately update the skills, when for you, if the skills get updated. And so some of those infrastructure kind of exists, and as well as they're being built. And so we just tap into that to share our skills. And then I think the other part to it is also culture. So DoorDash is highly experimentations, over index on speed. So we kind of just constantly sharing new things and what it can do. Hey, there's this thing that can help you build survey. There's this thing can help you build crosstab easily, things like that, and get people excited about the output. We also did an AI day as well. So sort of a hackathon-ish, if you want to call it that. But it's sort of building people muscle and then introducing them to this set of skills that can be used. So a fair bit of work. But I think one of the hackathon kind of get people do it end to end, going through the skills really help.
I'm sort of blown by that away by the idea of it sounds almost like an app store. If you had a skills store internally. Yeah. And so for me, the takeaway from that is the dichotomy. And actually, I was speaking to Lewin Payne yesterday on one of what will be an episode in the series, is that because you can build solo with AI, the sense very often for people is, I'm just going to be over here on my own. I don't need a designer, I don't need a developer, I don't need anyone. I'm just going to build my apps and I'll have all my own stuff. And that's fine. But what your story shares is that, no, if you reach out and you collaborate and you work with the developers and you work with the analysts and you work with the designers, you can build so much more. Yeah.
I think tapping into, I always think collaboration is always better, right? And I think engineers in some way has built and maintained infrastructure much, much longer and more complex than our domain, at least I feel have done. And designers also super smart at thinking through new concept and new way to guide the agents. So I think somebody recently created some skills and hooks. I think it called, and I just kind of just call it memory management or something like that. I think which I just kind of talk about, but the way that people are being so creative with new concept, new way of containing the agents and making the agents do what we want it to do is fascinating. It's always, collaboration is better than none.
Yeah. How is the Qualtrics coming along?
It's programming.
It's programming.
And now I think it's sending it off to Qualtrics now.
Right. So one of the things there's two things in my mind right now. One is all of these skills. We've got these incredible abilities that you're showing to us today, for instance. Is it saving time? What's the value in it? What are you seeing as the value in it?
Definitely allow us to. So with the first skills that I show, the scope research skills, what really helped was it able to tap into existing knowledge base and kind of help us scan the context very well. So the more MCP connectors that you connect to the system, the more it knows and able to pull it up for us. So it saves so much time in just looking through like past knowledge and things like that. More often than not, also found things that other team have done through like the Slack MCP and things like that, and able to bring that in. So able to like scan a broader knowledge base within like a shorter period of time. I think the other things to it is making it more comprehensive. So I'm a mixed method researcher. I mean, my SQL skills is decent, but not the best. With some of the skills that we created, especially or from like the analytics team, actually, I'm able to like query behavioral data much more easily and like use that to support my research. Like I don't have to like go look for the right table, for example, like to query the SQL. So that's really helped as well. So like broader, faster, but also I think more comprehensive when it's come to research.
I often find that, for instance, here, do you find that where you're switching tasks more? So you set up an agent to create the Qualtrics, and now you've switched to a different task. And so your day-to-day life with an agentic environment like this is that you are managing multiple agents in your day to get much more work done.
Yeah. You definitely there's a lot more context switching, and so that's why like I actually built something just for myself that is sort of like recapping what each agent's done and like what step they have like they are at depending on the projects, and then I kind of give it comments from from one platform. So there's a lot more to do there with like context switching and like being able to just context switch without like burning your brain as well.
Yeah, there's actually an article I'm editing at the moment by Jordan Brinkman, who's at Ergo Next. And it's in Harvard Business Review, there was an article about brain fry and the oversight of AI and how you will get brain fry. So I love that you've built a layer over the top that you are really not context switching all the time. But something that Jordan recommends as well is that you have the AI produce a document of what it's produced that day, so that when you go to sleep and you can come back and kind of see, or you just go and have a weekend, you can kind of catch up pretty quickly as to what was done that day and where you were.
Yeah. Journaling is such a good concept. Like always make your agent journal, create some hooks so they can know how to journal. Like a dashboard to control and like monitor your agent's progress is also a great thing. Like some kind of orchestrator mindset. And then let me stop. Actually, the programming is done. Let me stop sharing and then show you the tricks. It's missing a few things here, but I can show you quickly how it looks. So this is just preview of the survey programming.
Right.
What's your age, type of item, things like that. The past 90 days, how often you have ordered coffee espresso. So it's things like that actually programmed. It's done while we're talking. So that's something that's interesting. It saved a lot of time, but again, like it's not perfect. For example, let's see. Like
typically have that last.
Please specify. Yeah, it usually should be last, and then it should have like an open text field, for example. So it's not all perfect. Like these format, we usually like do a carousel format is better, but it gives you like enough to start with, especially for people who like not familiar with like Qualtrics.
Amazing. I mean, this has been such an extraordinary treat to get a look at just what you've built and see how it actually works for real. Something that strikes me is that I know in our conversation that we had prior to this episode recording is some might look at this and go, wow, this is amazing, but I'm overwhelmed. How would I even start doing any of this? Nam, do you have a background in engineering, or how have you come to have this sort of articulation around AI tools?
That's too kind. I'm still learning, so I don't know if I have the best articulations, but I did have an engineering degree. And so looking at code, thinking from like an engineering perspective, does help. So it's a lot of like system thinking and like processes thinking, which really helped me. I think early on, one of the value for agent was coding. And so I do use a fair bit of SQL and Python in my work. And so I found that was like the gateway for me to go into the agent and like start trusting the agents that, oh, okay, actually it can write pretty decent code. And so that's like how I feel like I can trust it to do some of the work. I would say like start with like your own workflow. So say like you work with an agent to create a discussion guide, for example, be patient and just kind of tell it to do like keep guiding it, right? Like the first iteration that you produce for you might not look the best, but tell it what is wrong, where it is wrong. Create a very clear like standards and practice. And then from there, you start to like iterate through the skills, iterate through the processes, what work for you and what not work for you. I think patience has been something like, I feel like a lot of people, maybe it's because the way that LLM has been marketing, which is like, you just use it, it's going to produce the amazing things. But actually, no, it's like, you do have to be patient with it, teach it to do the things you want to do, create a system to which it can like reliably do those things. That's very important. And then also iteratively like improve upon it. So like test it out, ask your colleagues to test it out. Edge cases, things like that is very important. I mean, we were all researchers, right? So we have to like observe and see where things breaks and then come back and fix it. So that's would be what I would recommend. Yeah.
I love that you're recommending patience because we're in a world where everybody's been asked to speed up. And to your point, it's such a good point that AI has been marketed, and if it's not been marketed, many of us have assumed that this is just this intelligence that's instant and it's going to get it right first time round, and then there's a frustration when it doesn't. It was a wonderful takeaway for me. Patience, put the work in, use your research experience of observation, systems design to continue to iterate and design it as a long-term system that becomes integral to how you do research in the organization. And then the final one that I think is so important is don't do it all on your own. Work with those around you. Nam, is there anything that you wish that we had covered and we haven't yet covered as a final kind of note?
One thing I was just talking to somebody the other day was a lot of these are actually new languages, like learning a new language. So sometimes I treat it as like, if there's a new word, then I start to like look a little bit deeper into what it means and what it's trying to point to. And a lot of the time it comes back to like very similar processes or techniques that we are familiar with. Things like harnesses, for example, goes back to like, say, service design, like constraints and like, you know, the front system, the back system, things like that, orchestrations to get things go smoothly. So sometimes it's new language, but under the hood, it can be the same thing. So again, like try to learn the language and try to understand what it points to. And then more often than not, it might point to things that you're actually already familiar with.
I love, I'm so pleased that I asked you that last question because that's gold. Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. And I'm sure that many people are going to be like, oh my gosh, how do we learn more about this? Can people reach out to you somewhere?
Oh, I think I'm on LinkedIn. And then feel free to comment on those design medium articles on DoorDash. I can also reply as well. Yeah.
Perfect. We'll link to those. Thank you so much. Thanks for listening to How to AI UXR. This series was produced by the Research Ops Review and sponsored by Strella, the AI-powered customer research platform. Find the How to AI UXR map in the show notes. The map details how research professionals worldwide are augmenting UXR at the crawl, walk, and run levels of complexity.